Expert voices. Here's one petitioner. CNBC TV18's Menaka Doshi spoke with Rahul Narayan, the lawyer for a group of petitioners against the usage of Aadhaar. He listed out the concerns he had as far as his unique ID card goes.
Actually, the thing was, an interim order was passed in August when the matter was referred to a larger bench. And the court said in the interim, they laid down various conditions which the government was required to follow. Now, what happened, various agencies and state governments wanted to modify that order, have that altered, which is why they filed a series of applications. So many of the legal issues before the court were, whether they could look at this issue at all now that a larger bench was going to be seized of the matter, etc. Unless it is extremely urgent, they said that they decided not to do so. So eventually, the court said that all of these applications will be listed along with the main matter when it is taken up by the larger bench, the constitution bench of 5 judges or whatever, whenever that is set up by the Chief Justice.
The primary objections have been on the grounds of privacy, on the grounds of any lack of any explicit protection of privacy and security of data. So if you could quickly articulate what you hope that the Supreme Court constitutional bench will look at when actually determining this matter in some degree of finality.
See, there are privacy is one of the things in which we have challenged this. There are many things on which we have challenged this. I mean, we can't even call it an enactment because it is not an enactment. We challenge the Aadhaar scheme. There are many things. Privacy and security, of course, are primarily amongst them. Now, the fact remains, for example, that you are collecting a whole lot of data. One authority is collecting a whole lot of data. That same authority is going to store a whole lot of data, and eventually, hopefully, they will decide to discard some of that data too. All of this is at this point completely unregulated. Nobody knows anything what is really going on. The people who took details while the Aadhaar cards were being, Aadhaar numbers were being distributed. Who are these people? They were private contractors. Who are the agency who's going to manage this great central database? And in this day and age where everything seems to be susceptible to hacking, to have everyone's personal details stored in this giant database seems to be an enormously dangerous activity, I think, isn't it? Imagine if you have the power to be able to find out where 1.2 billion people, what they're doing, where they're going.
Okay, fair enough. Have we heard, we were expecting to hear from the Supreme Court today.
No, there's one more, I'm sorry to interrupt you. There's one more thing which I thought I must bring to your notice. You see, the thing is that right now there are so many different authorities. There are different packets of information which are with different authorities. For example, when I go to Supreme Court, I have to enter by a certain card, which obviously records that I am in Supreme Court on that day. If I go to the airport and there is a certain system that's all fine. The idea is if you put all of this in a central place where it is accessible to somebody, that is an enormous breach of personal privacy, and it is again, it brings the dangers of a surveillance state. And right now, all we have is the government saying we don't want to be a surveillance state. But where is what is the authority which stops such a thing from happening?
So that's one side of the argument, a case being made against Aadhaar. Menaka also spoke with Senior Counsel Harish Salve. He is representing the state of Gujarat, and he is pro-Aadhaar, saying it's disastrous how people are making a big issue about privacy.
My views on this are very clear. I think the government has put everybody in a bit of a spot by raising the issue of whether there is a right to privacy and getting it stuck in the larger constitutional question. This is an open and shut case, which if it was argued on the premise that even if there is a right to privacy, there is no violation by collecting the basic data relating to private human beings. And if the unnecessary cloud sought to be created on the security aspect had been removed by the government effectively, I don't think the case would have really sort of taken this kind of turn. But anyway, we are where we are.
Mr. Salve, just to sort of stick with the current issues before I talk to you about the privacy matter, it will now be referred to a larger bench, from which I understand will be the constitutional bench, which is yet to be set up, from what I understand.
No. The first issue to be decided is there a right to privacy? Now, that's the larger issue to be gone into, which, is a metaphysical constitutional issue.
Metaphysical constitutional issue, sir?
Yeah, and according to me, it's a non-issue because, frankly, in 2015 to say your right to personal liberty doesn't include the right to privacy is a complete constitutional anachronism. But anyway, that's where we are.
Unfortunately, Mr. Salve, it does seem those who oppose the mandatory use of Aadhaar without sufficient privacy and security safeguards are concerned about the lack of an explicit right to privacy in the Constitution or any overarching privacy law.
Yeah,
so what's the way out of this?
There are so many rights which the Supreme Court has read into the Constitution. The right to privacy is one of them. I don't think the fact that there is no express right gives rise to any concern in any person superficially familiar with constitutional law. I have appeared in this case for the Delhi government, and I personally would think it's a charitable use of language to call the challenge a nonsense. But anyway, that's where we are.
But Mr. Salve,
if once you go into the details of how the data is collected and how the data is maintained, I don't think there is any reason to suspect that there will be some sort of a looming big brother who is watching everywhere you go and checking at everything you do and stuff like that.
So that's where things currently stand. The Supreme Court sticking to its position that the Aadhaar card cannot be made mandatory to avail of government services. And of course, this matter has now moved to a constitutional bench of the Supreme Court. So we haven't heard the last of it. But this is the question that I was asking the Minister of State for Finance and other government officials as well. Why has the government not moved to provide constitutional validity, which is what the UPA was hoping to do when they decided to move the constitutional bill to give sanctity to the Aadhaar? That has been buried by this government, even though this government makes Aadhaar very, very crucial as far as its DBT offering is concerned, its expenditure reforms are concerned. It is part of the jam trinity that this government is hoping to push forward in order to curb and to collectivize subsidies being given out to the citizens. So it is going to be crucial now for the government to decide what it wants to do as far as providing legal sanctity and constitutional validity to the Aadhaar card.